Regardless of the type of volcano, there are major hazards that are associated with the eruption of volcanoes on our planet. Overall, we see that there are about 70 volcanic eruptions on average every year on our planet. Thankfully, those really large, deadly eruptions only happen about once a decade. But we see that about 500 million, or half a billion people on our planet, live within active volcanoes. And by active volcanoes, I mean one that could potentially erupt in the near future. When a volcano erupts, we see that multiple hazards could develop. And these could be pyroclastic flows, where all of that exploded material is going to flow down the side of the volcano. We can see lava flows, which is lava flowing across the surface. We can see lahars, which are mud flows, as well as ash and volcanic gases that are released from the vent as well. So we're going to start off looking at the pyroclastic flows. Remember, the pyroclastic material is that's created during the explosion. It's going to blast away solid pieces of the volcano. And those solid pieces are going to be incredibly hot after that explosion. But they're also going to be full of ash and different pieces of lava because it got so hot. But because most of this is solid, gravity is going to start pulling it down the sides of the volcano. And it's going to be able to move incredibly fast, up to about 60 miles per hour. And right after all of these solid pieces, the lower, denser pieces like ash are going to flow down behind it. And all of this is created when that eruption column within the volcano starts to collapse during the eruption. So these pyroclastic flows can be incredibly deadly. Here we're looking at the remains of Pompeii, which was a really ancient volcanic eruption in 79 CE, where it killed hundreds of people. And if you look at the onset of this image, we can actually see where their bodies were preserved and all of the volcanic ash from this eruption. But another type of hazard that we commonly see is called a lahar. And this is yet another Indonesian word that means mud flow. So these are going to be like rivers, but there's tons and tons of thick mud inside of it. If you've ever walked through a really muddy area, it's difficult to walk through. You're literally pulling up each foot as you're walking because it gets pulled into the mud and it's difficult to escape. So these lahars, we see that it's water absolutely filled with mud. It's going to move very quickly down the volcano, but what makes it so deadly is just like a mud that you're trying to walk through, it's going to be incredibly difficult to escape. Most of the time, it's nearly impossible to escape a lahar. And what makes this even worse is that lahars not only happen on active volcanoes, like ones that are currently erupting, but also dormant volcanoes that haven't erupted for years, as well as extinct volcanoes, those that will never erupt again, all because all you need is water to very quickly and thoroughly saturate mud along the sides of the volcano. But there are even more hazards that we need to be conscious about. If we have a volcano erupting in the ocean, a tsunami could develop, especially if the volcano collapses and creates small waves near the center of the ocean. And as the waves get closer to shore, they'll grow in height. And if they grow large enough, they can produce a tsunami. But another hazard that we have to be conscious about is ash. We're going to see that ash will slowly build up after the eruption. It'll settle on top of the surface, on top of things like buildings, which it can damage roofs and windows. It can also hurt living things, especially plants that it settles on top of. And it can also really disrupt airplane engines. But volcanoes also produce sulfur dioxide. When sulfur dioxide mixes with rain, it forms acid rain. So the next time that it rains after this volcanic eruption, rain will be acidic and it will erode the materials along the surface. But volcanoes can also affect the climate. If it's producing a lot of ash and aerosols, these small solid particles will reflect light back into the atmosphere, cooling off the planet. But volcanoes are also releasing their dissolved gases. So if they're releasing a lot of carbon dioxide, they can warm the planet.